Happy Sunday. Here I am, Rachel, getting ready to do some Young Spirits reflections this Sunday as part of our ongoing theme of moving. Oh, I am doing Young Spirits. Would you like to join me? Yay, I'm not on my own.
I'll stand up first.
You want to come over this side?
I've got Peter with me.
Peter the penguin. So today, Francesca, this is great because it's nicer to talk to you. It makes me feel less lonely.
I was in my little hut.
You were in your little hut, your hidey hole. We're going to talk about the next book in our series where we're working through the books of the Bible. And last week we did about Jeremiah. Do you remember anything about Jeremiah? That's okay, we can fix it later. Do you remember anything about Jeremiah?
No.
No, we just did it last week and it's gone clear out of her mind. Is Jeremiah a happy bloke?
No.
No. He was a prophet and he was thinking about what might be coming for Israel, okay? Israel had done a lot of not being good to each other, not being good to God's instructions about how to be good to each other, and the enemy was coming and they were going to be taken away from their precious temple where they were like, God lives here, God's on our side, everything's great, but kind of lapsed into it and so we can do whatever we want way of thinking. And Jeremiah was like, this is going to be a rough old lesson in carrying your faith with you into every situation. And the situation was here. So we've now got attack.
Peter?
Attack, not Peter. Attack.
We have Peter.
We've got Judah, Jerusalem under siege. We've got the enemies closing in. We've got no food, no water. And Jeremiah's living through all of this.
I've got
and then,
an egg for Peter.
And then exile. What does exile mean? Do you know?
Were they banned?
Yeah, well, you're kind of banished from your own country. So Lamentations, the word Lamentations, the book of Lamentations, is about lamenting. Lamenting is a fancy word for crying, for wailing, for expressing incredible pain and sorrow. And the whole book is basically a poem about how awful it is for Israel right now. How awful it is to go through losing your country, your place, and watching the people around you die and suffer. There are verses in Jeremiah that do express some hope, that express some kind of future, where Jeremiah was hanging on to this belief that God wouldn't abandon Israel forever, and that Israel would get to come back to their homeland. And if you look up, I had a quick Google about Jeremiah, and there's one very famous verse that is the only one that comes up, really, if you look up Jeremiah on Pinterest. Lots and lots of lovely posters and verses. I do love Pinterest. And the verse that comes up is, because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. We are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Those lines actually used in a song that we sometimes sing at church. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. In other words, the Lord is my good thing that I get to claim.
I think it'll be easier if we put, oh, there we go.
There we go. Therefore I will wait for him. And that sounds really hopeful, doesn't it? It's going, God loves us. We're not going to be finished by this. God is faithful, and I'll wait for him to rescue, to make things better. That sounds great, doesn't it? Really positive.
It's
one of the very, very few positive verses in Lamentations, and I felt like actually we skipped over a lot of Lamentations when that's all that comes up. People kind of go, oh, you know what? Bad things are happening, but cling on to God, everything will be fine, because there are a lot of other verses in Lamentations that do not sound like this. They sound like this instead. How deserted lies the city, once so full of people.
How like a widow is she, who once was a great among the nations, she who was queen among the provinces, has now become a slave.
And that's exactly how it was. Israel had become a slave to the other nations.
So she was like a queen, now she was a slave.
Yeah. So they've been thinking, do you know what? This is great. We've got everything we need. We're quite powerful. We've got our God. We're never defeated in battle. And now they were. And it goes even further in its lamenting of the pain that they're going through. The Lord is like an enemy. He has swallowed up
Israel. He has swallowed up their palaces and destroyed their strongholds. He has multiplied mourning and lamentation for daughter Judah.
I think that sometimes as Christians, or as people with any faith, or just as people, we can be very quick to want to jump to the hope bit. We can be very quick when somebody's...
I always do that.
Yeah, well, and that's a good thing, but when somebody's suffering, if you fall over and hurt your knee, well, you used to do this when you were little, actually. She'd fall over and hurt her knee, and she'd run over, wailing. And if I said, oh, you'll be fine, love, it'll all be fine, you'll be fine, just go and play, you'll be fine, she would cry louder. Do you remember this?
No.
You would cry so loud and so angrily. And it wasn't until I'd say, wow, that looks sore. You've fallen and you've hurt yourself. And it's horrible when that happens. And then you go, yeah, all right. And then you go off and play. And that's a very simple example. But you knew that you needed to be heard. You knew that you had a right to be sad. Because sad things had happened. And I think it's interesting that when I was looking through the book of Lamentation, all the verses that people wanted to talk about Lamentation was how God never leaves us. But Jeremiah, for most of the book, feels like God not only has abandoned them, but it feels like he's turned into their enemy. God's against them. That's how it feels. And that's how he writes about his feelings. And I think for those feelings to have been logged and popped into our Bible, they probably matter. And if Jeremiah's feelings about being abandoned and being in pain matter, I think ours do too. And I think as Christians, we're sometimes accused as Christians of being a little bit happy clappy and a little bit everything's all right because God's big and God's nice. And so don't talk about things being hard. Don't talk about things being difficult. Don't talk about unfairness and injustice and grief and loss and pain because we could just, talk about all the nice things instead.
Do you read that?
So, yeah, that's the verse that I think is true about God's love never failing and about being new every morning, but that isn't always how it feels, and we need to remember that we can talk about the other feelings too.
Can I read it?
Can you read me this one instead? Because just in a second, because even at the end, so the other thing that I think we do as Christians sometimes is we say, well, it's okay to talk about the sad bits as long as you end with a happy ending. So I had a terrible time, but God really helped me through it. That's an okay thing to say. But what about, I am having a terrible time, I can't hear God for anything, and I think he's gone off somewhere and forgotten about me. Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're allowed to say that. And this is even how the book of Jeremiah finishes. Do you want to read it for me?
Yeah.
It's Lamentations 5:20-22.
Why do you always forget us? Why do you forsake us so long? Restore us to yourself, Lord, that we may return. Renew our days of old, unless you have utterly rejected us and are angry with us beyond measure.
Jeremiah is really hoping that God will come back to them, that they will feel close to God again. But it sounds like it feels scary, like he's not so sure.
You sound like you're going to open the mouth.
And I think that's okay to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I wanted to do to kind of help us remember that is we're going to do a little bit of a metaphor craft. We're going to make some tears to symbolise. I'm not going to make you cry. I'm not going to stick pins in you. But we're going to make symbolic tears to think about the things, to help us say out loud, to think about the things that make us sad and that aren't neat and tidy, and we don't want to dry up quickly and say, yeah, everything's fine now, because it's not. And we can make these tears, but do you know what else I want us to do with these? I want us to make the tears beautiful.
Okay, so
what we're going to do is first, I don't know if you can see, I've got a bit of clear plastic here. You could cut up
we're underwater.
You could cut up an old fruit box for this, to be honest.
Fruit box? What do you mean?
You know the tubs that you get grapes in. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to just cut out some vague tear shapes.
They're not tears.
Like that.
But they don't. Can I cut tears?
Would you like to cut some tears?
I think I'm big enough.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
Okay, make them big enough to just write a little something on here. And while you're doing that, I'm going to write some of Jeremiah's tears on here.
I think I'm really bad at actually doing this.
That's fine. So, using a permanent marker, I'm going to write something sad that Jeremiah went through, which was losing home.
This is a really wonky tear.
And I'm going to write losing friends.
This is a wonky tear.
How many of us, while we're in lockdown,
tear.
are feeling like we've lost friends?
Wonky tear.
Can I have your wonky tear?
Yeah.
What are things that make you sad, Francesca? You could tell us about.
My den falling apart.
Okay, so toys breaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, write that on. Toys breaking. Should we do just one more?
This is a perfect tear.
A perfect tear. What could go on here as a sad thing?
Tear.
Go on then, you show that. Can I take the incredibly sharp scissors out of your mouth?
Mum, they can see if they're near you. That's a perfect
yeah.
tear.
What are we going to write on this perfect tear?
Something really sad.
Could just write pain.
Yeah, pain.
And that can be pain for your feelings or pain for your body. I've written pains on here. So should we hold some of them up? So we've got, I don't know if you can read it. I've just written it quite small.
What is it?
So we've got toys
losing
breaking.
home.
Yeah.
Losing home. Losing friends. Toys breaking. And pains with our beautiful
And I've got
tear.
a container here for our tears. So we're going to catch our tears. You
Why is
drop
there
them
water
in there. Because I was just using it to measure out water earlier.
Wait, pretend I'm crying.
In some cultures or in some traditions, you might get a bottle to catch your tears.
Oh, I've got one.
You know in Harry Potter, when Snape catches his tear and it gets put in the Pensieve because it holds his memories. Tears are a sacred thing. And then I'm going to put some water from this very, very brightly coloured jug. This is a hot dog jar. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. And I'm going to pour in some water to just add to our tears. Pretty full up. Like that. And you can just see our tears floating around at the bottom.
Can I see it in the camera? So I want to
Yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of see it.
Okay, now just carefully, because I don't want to knock this all over my nest.
How are we going to do it?
It's not necessary, but if you happen to have any glycerin
What's
in,
that?
it gets used as a bit of a cough liquid, I think. And you can pick it up from a co-op pharmacy. But it's great when you're making anything you want to float slowly in water. Because it's a bit viscous and it sort of adds. I'll tip the lot in actually because there's not much in there. I might give that a little bit of a shake.
You haven't got a lid on.
I will put the lid on before I give it a bit of a shake. So just going to mix.
It looks weird now.
Mix that up.
We're not going to drink that, right?
No, we're not going to drink it. See, it makes it just a little bit lava lumpy. You shake it. Okay, but we haven't made our tears beautiful yet. We haven't honoured our pain and our loss and our tears. So we're gonna make them beautiful. And we've got sequins here. You could use glitter as well. Let's just use the sequence now because the video is getting ever so long.
Okay.
Do you want to help me? Oh, okay. Stop.
Can we take it?
Yeah, let's put the lid on first.
You put the
So
lid
we've
on
put
top
some
of it.
beautifully coloured sequins in with our tears.
I want to feel the sequins.
Hang on. And then you've got to really shake them up in there. And now, in amidst our tears, we've not taken the tears away. We've not denied them. We've not said, actually, you're wrong. It's not that bad. It is that bad. Can we see them here? If you just stop for a minute. And our tears are floating around with our sequins. And you don't even have to shake them. You could just turn them. But sometimes we do feel all shook up, don't we, in our lives? And what's the verse about? Be still and know I'm God? We're all shook up. And maybe it would be a bit special to just watch the calm descend.
Where was that we did yesterday?
We'll get that in a minute. I think what we need to do now is just sign off and say, whatever you're lamenting, whatever pain you're going through, you're beautiful in that pain. And that pain matters.
Let me do my outro.
Thank you for watching.
Bye. And remember that you are wonderful.
You are wonderful.
Bye.